We're continuing today Perek Yutes, and we would like to discuss two separate topics. In the beginning of Perek Yutes, Vayoytze Hagoyrol Hasheni L'Shimoin L'Mate Binyamin L'Mishpechoisom Vayihi Nachalosom Besoich Nachalos Bnei Yehuda. It says that Shevet Shimoin, they're getting a part in Eretz Yisrael, right? And Shimon ended up getting the Nachalo Besoich Nachalas Bnei Yehuda. If I go further down, it says V'kol HaChatzerim, it says all the cities of Bnei Shimon. Posuk Ches, V'kol HaChatzerim asher svivas ha'orim ha'ele ad ba'alas be'ero amos negev, Zois Nachalas Matei Bnei Shimon L'Mishpechoisom. It tells you all the cities that Shimon got in their Nachalo for the Chalukas Eretz Yisrael. And then the Pasuk finishes up again. Michevel Bnei Yehuda Nachalas Bnei Shimon Ki hoyo chelek Bnei Yehuda rav mehem Vayinchalu Bnei Shimon Besoich Nachalos. Rashi says rav mehem in our limit. Seemingly it says that Yehuda got a greater nachalo that he needs. It was greater than the population that Yehuda needs for some reason or another, which is shver, because we saw some places training. If you get it lefi per capita, so what does it mean nachalos bnei Yehuda rav lohem? Thus is rav lohem. But in any event, it says it had a larger nachalo, and nachalos bnei Shimon was within the borders and the cities of Bnei Shimon was Besoich Nachalas Bnei Yehuda. Just to get some clarity in it, when Yankov benches his children in Mitzrayim, so he tells them, Lamaisi, he gives the klala to Shimon and Levi. It says, Shimon v'Levi achim kelei chomos mechoyrei seyim. Besoido maltov nafshi Bikeholo maltechat kevoidi ki behapom orgu ish ubirtsoinom ikru shoyer. So there's a bunch of chatoim of Shimon and Levi, and mainly Yaakov focuses on the milchama they held against Shechem ben Chamor and the ganze Shtot von Shechem, and they killed them beorme bechochme. So he tells them ki behapom orgu ish ubirtsoinom ikru shoyer. So I'm not getting involved right now in the actual klolo, but the punchline of it is Achal came beYaakov ve'afitzem beYisrael. Says Rashi Afanot. He says Vibald Shimon and Levi caused a lot of tsar and aggravation to Yaakov Avinu. Therefore, he wants, first of all, to separate. Shimon should not be next to Levi. This combination of these two brothers, which made trouble in Yaakov's eyes, that's not a good recipe for them to be weiter. It says, Achalkem beYaakov ve'afitzem beYisrael. Zogt Rashi, there afanort, in Parshas Vayechi. Achalkem beYaakov afridem ze mizeh. Shelo yeheh Levi b'minyan hashvotim, v'areihem chalukim. There's a way to get Levi and Shimon separated. And one way is Shevet Levi loynot al chelek ba'aretz. We spoke about it. We're going to speak about it further in Perek Aleph. The Levim did not get a chelek in Eretz Yisrael. So being that the Levim don't have their own nachlo, Mimele, that would in itself cause a certain chalukah, a certain preda between Shimon and Levi, because Shimon will get a chelik in Eretz Yisrael. That's what Rashi says. Dover acher, zweite Sach, ein lecho anim v'soifrim umelamde tinoikos elo mishimon kedei sheyunefeitz. Yaakov said that all the melamde tinoikos and all the anim and all the soifer stam are going to be from Shevet Shimon. Why? Because those people who run from shtot to get the parnosa, shver the parnosa, so they're going to go she'ein lecho Ein lecho elo mishevet Shimon kedei shiyu nefoitz. In other words, besides not, according to the first Pirush, not giving Levi a chelik anachal ner Yisrael mimelo be separated from Shimon, Shimon in itself, the job would be a job of melamat yinoikis and seifrim, anim, and therefore they're going to have to go around from shtot to shtot. That in itself would cause a certain diversification. V'shivtei shel Levi, ason mechazer al agronois letrumas ulemaisres nosan leitfutzosei derech kovet. Kilu, the both of them are going to be diversified and dispersed all over the shtetl of Eretz Yisrael. But Shimon is going to do it through being a sefer and melamet yinoikis. And by Levi it was derech kovet futzosei. Why? Because Levi gets the matnas levia, the matnas kahuna. They're getting the maisers, the trumas and the maisers. So that's called nosa leitfutzosei derech kovet. Therefore, they will both be diversified. Shimon will be diversified via being melamet yinoikis and seifrim and anim. And Levi via being Shevet Levi, who's collecting trumas and maisers from the gronis all over in all the nachlas. The Goyen comes and says that be'emes the klola, the machlekes the Goyen the Ramban how to learn pshat, but the Goyen says that be'emes the klola of Yankiv, the teichecho is only legabe minyan hashvotim and legabe the parnosa, but biyachas to not being the nachal next to each other, it was never ever a teichecho and the klola of Yankiv. The Ramban says was also biyachas to the proximity of the neighbors. They shouldn't be neighbors together. The Rashbam, Achalke B'Yankev, he says, Ki hoyo shevet Levi nispazer b'shnei mosor shvotim, ki d'ksi b'Yeshua, nimtzo Shimon levadoi b'loi Levi. We know that the Levim didn't get, they got a boim v'shtayim year, plus the Sheish Olam Miklot. The Levim dwelled in the 48 cities of all over the Shvotim. We know that those 48 cities were not specified to specific Shevet. So Shevet Levi was dispersed to 48 Shvatim. Meiles of the Rashbam, that in itself, being that Levi le not al chelik ba'aretz, and he will have to get his nachla ergetz, they have to live somewhere, and they have the Ora Levim, we're going to learn about the Ora Levim. Therefore, Shimon would not be together. The Yankiv doesn't want Shimon and Levi to be together. There's different ways how he does it. Either he's mechalik them to give him such a parnosa that would have to be diversified, or Shevet Levi doesn't get chelik in Eretz Yisrael. Mimela, there is no collective Shevet Levi that's sitting in one place in order to be mischaber with Shimon. The Ben Ezra from north, there's brings unsere pasuk. Ve'ine motzonu ki goyra al Shimon nofal betoich nachalas biyudo. Ve'ine hu birshus acher. Ve'gam orov lo hoyu dveikim zo lezoi רק מפוזורס בינויס גוירו ליהודו. גם כן לוי שואל 48 עיר והם מפוזורס בין השבטים. The Ben Ezra learns more kipshutai, and he says Achalkem beYaakov Afitzim beYisrael is the fact that Shimon really also didn't get a chelik in Eretz Yisrael, ha'egen a chelik. He was dwelling, like we learn in the Psukim, Nachal Shimon was within Chevel Bnei Yehuda. Ki'ilu Shevet Bnei Yehuda got bigger. And the reason why they got bigger, if you hold according to the Rishonim, that the Eretz is Schalko, the Karka for the Gavre, so it was because Shimon was included in Shevet Yehuda. So he doesn't get his own entity, he doesn't get his own city hall, he doesn't get his own Eigene Nachalas HaShevet, but he is within Nachalas Yehuda. And also in Yehuda, if you look at the map and you see Beis Levoes, the Shloishes Re'ir, and the Chatzerim, and the Ein Rimoin, and the Arba and the Chatzerim, if you look at the map of Nachalos Bnei Yehuda, you'll see it's being diversified all over. You know, the truth of the matter is that later on, it's Nishtazei Poshet, that later on, there's two things we have to know. Shimon, in the Chet from Zimri, 24,000 people, are you amazing by Magefa, above Esrim Olef. And those 24,000, according to Chazal, Rashi brings it down, were all from Shevet Shimon. So, sie geblieben 24,000 Almones, the 24,000 widows, they didn't have Parnassah. They lost the husband who was the breadwinner in the house. Steht in Yalkut, they went around all the Shvotim to be Mekabet's money. So, Ein Lecha Anim was not only Niskayim because Stamazei, they'll be Seifrim, they'll be Melamed, because be Anim. The Anias was that Shevet Shimon was Chayte Beched Zimri. And according to the Goyen, there is a Midah Kenegedina Zimri against Shem. We're not going to go into it. But Lamaisis is Giblim, and it was a major part of the Shevet. It was like 40% or 50% of the Shevet at the time that was killed by the Magefe. So the Almana said to go look for Parnasa. Vadar Abanim Linyan Tzedakah. They went from shtot to shtot, and that caused them to be diversified. So also, in the Zeit from David HaMelech, it doesn't say, it says in Sefer Divrei Hayomim, David HaMelech asked the Shevet Shimon, he evicted them from within Nachalas Yehuda. David was from Shevet Yehuda. And it says a certain Tkufa that David did not want the Shimon to dwell within him, so he threw him out, and they went around Mekabtzim to be all of them in different Shvatim. Ho'elam Mikol Anal, that the Maral says that since they had to become Melamdim, so they can be Makpidim, they can be Chagzonim. In other words, Yaakov Avinu tells them, you got to be Achalkim B'Yaakov Afitzim B'Yisrael. And again, in Yonenu here, Levi doesn't get Chelik in Eretz Yisrael, dwell within the 48 cities. Shimon gets it within Yehuda. He doesn't have Egene independence. He doesn't have his own entity of his own Shevet, his own Nachlo, his own, all the things that each Shevet had, Kivyochol, some kind of a government, local government. We'll see later, each Shevet had his own Ki'ilu states within the states like we have today in the United States, different states. Each Shevet had his own Melucha and his own Chelik and Nachlo. And Shimon did not. He dwelled within Yehuda, and within Yehuda, it was diversified all over the place. And that caused them to be Mechulik. Yankov does not look for the coalition. He doesn't want to be Chibur, not Shimon itself as an entity, not Shimon Velevi for certain. Therefore, the Teichecho, the Gzeira came across in a way that Levi doesn't get Chelik in Eretz Yisrael, and Shimon dwells within Yehuda in a diversified fashion. They're not next to each other, and they're all getting their parnasa via different collecting, causing them to be all over Eretz Yisrael. I'd like to move on to the next topic of really today's shiur, and go to Perek Yutes to Pasuk Nun Aleph. All these 40 psukim are talking about the names of the cities of Bnei Don and Yehuda and Don, and what we saw, all this Issachar. If you look through all this, I would like to focus on the end of the Perek. The end of the Perek says as follows. It says, Eile, when we come in towards Pasuk, Vaychalu, Pasuk Memtes, Vaychalu linchal soros l'gvulei seir, Vayitu bnei Yisrael nachalu liYeshua benun b'seichom. What is the Yeshua the Manig needs to get nachalo from the Bnei Yisrael. So he's also getting nachalo b'seichom. Al pi Hashem nosnu lo esoir asher shoal estimnas serach be'ar Ephraim, vayiven esair vayeshev, and he's also buried in Timnas Serach. That's the nachalo within Shevet Ephraim. He got his own shtot that he wanted to be living in, and that's where he died, and that's where he's buried. The last pasuk in the Perek says as follows: Eile hanecholos asher nichalu Elazar HaKohen v'Yeshua bin Nun v'Rosh ha'oveis lematos bnei Yisrael begoral b'shilo lifnei Hashem Pesach oil moed vayechalu mechalek es haaretz. These are the nachalos that Elazar HaKohen and Yeshua bin Nun and the Rosh ha'oveis nichalu. What does the word nichalu mean? What does it mean, Asher nichalu? Rashi says one word, Asher nichalu hinchilu. In other words, in Chlukas Eretz Yisrael, there's supposed to be halacha is the Chlukas Eretz Yisrael is to be al pi urim v'tumim and al pi goyrel. And so they went to Shiloh, they made the goyrel, like we saw how they did the goyrel, and they needed the urim v'tumim. So it says, "V'lifnei Elazar HaKohen Yamod v'shal b'mishpatim." The Gemara in Eruvin says, "V'lo motzinu be'emes Elazar was nenash," because Moya halacha b'fnei Rabbi. Teisin Sanhedrin says that's only b'yachas to other questions, but b'yachas to Chlukas ha'aretz, Shua ben Nun is going to ask Elazar HaKohen to be the one who has shoyalim be'urim v'tumim to make sure that the girl Eretz Yisrael is done al pi urim v'tumim. So Eila nachal is asher nichalu hinchilu. What does it mean asher nichalu hinchilu? Now, Elazar HaKohen, they're doing fine. Elazar HaKohen is the Kohen Gadol. Yeshua is the one, Al Pi Hashem, he's the manik, he's there by the Nachlo. But what is Roishe Ovis? And why do they have to participate? It says 3 different people were there. Elazar HaKoyen, Yeshua bin Nun, V'Roishe HaOvis. The Metzudah says, Roishe Botei Ovis Shel Mata is Bnei Yisrael. Kill all the mishpachas. Roish is Bnei Ovis of all. The Radak says over here, and I'm reading, says the Radak, V'Roishe Ovis Lamatis, Kimo Ovis Amatis, Kloimar, Rosh Botei Ovis L'Kol Shevet V'Shevet. V'Rabbi Seinu, Radak now brings a Gemara. V'Rabbi Seinu, Sugya Sagmora in Yevomis Daf Peites Amud Beis. Somchu Bezeh HaPosuk LeHefker Beis Din Shehoyu Be'eretz Yisrael Hefker. Ve'omru v'chima inyan roishim etzel o'ovis. Elaloi ma'aloch ma'ovis manchilim es b'neim kol ma sheyirtzu. Afroishim manchilim es ha'om kol ma sheyirtzu. The core of this halacha is the Sugya Sagmora in Yevomis Daf Peites Amud Beis. The Gemara says, Omar Rav Yitzchok, minayin shehefker Beis Din Hefker, shene'emar, in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, after goes Bavel, Chorosh, and Damascus coming to Yerushalayim, and Ezra is calling in a meeting, a major meeting to come to Yerushalayim. He made a major revolution, Ezra, one of them in which he was telling them to divorce the Noshim Noichiyos, that they were married to. All mixed marriages were forbidden, and they had to make a Maisa. They came to next to Beis HaMikdash, and he called them. It says in the Pasuk, they said they went all around, all over. We're talking about now, not in the time of Yeshua bin Nun, which is Kibush Eila Mitzrayim, talking about the Kibush Eila Bavel. After Beis HaMikdash Harishon is Horav, they're going to Golus Bavel, they sit there for 70 years, they come back to Chorosh and Damascus, and Lamaisa they are building the second Beis HaMikdash after the Golus. But in order to prepare him to build the second Beis HaMikdash, Ezra is making Gevisa Takonis. The whole Sugya Sagmor at the end of Perek Merubah, the Takonis which Ezra was Mesaken, they were doing this time, 9 months that Ezra was Mesaken, all the Takonis, in order to shape up Klal Yisrael to be ready to build the second Beis HaMikdash. So he says he was Ma'avir a kol, Tetlach kol, whatever, how the kol was spread around. And he says you have to come, you have 3 days to come to Yerushalayim. Says the Pasuk, V'kol asher lo yovel ishleishes hayomim, be'atzas hasorim ve'azkenim. This is not only Ezra one-man show. You had the Sorim, the Zkenim, all the Chshuvim, the Zayin Tu ve'ayir, the Gemara says, the Sorim and the Zkenim, the Ziknei Ador, they're all calling a collective meeting, everybody's to come to a demonstration. If somebody is not going to end up saying, I'm not going, they're calling, I'm not going. Yecherom kol rechushoi vehui bodel mikahalo. There is a punishment involved. If you don't come to this meeting, yechram kol rechushoi. We're confiscating all of your belongings, all your properties, and we're excommunicating you, ibodel mikahal. So this is the pasuk that Hefker Beis Din is Hefker. Abelazar says from a second pasuk. How do you know that the halacha is Hefker? But not the pasuk that says in Ezra Yecharam Kol Rechushay, but unsere pasuk steht in Sefer Yehoshua right here at the end of Perikutes. Va'ele anachalo is asher nichalu elozar akom Yeshua b'nu v'roish ha'ovis l'matos b'nei Yisrael v'chima inyan roishim etzel ha'ovis. He should have said roish ha'matos. What's roish ha'ovis? What does the word ovis come into the picture? Roish ha'matos. Each shevet had to be there in order to protect the rights of their shevet. Fine, but what's roish ha'ovis? Elobo loy maloch. The pasuk is coming to teach us. Ma ovis manchilim es habonim kol ma sheyirtzu. You know, the halacha is that a father, before he dies, he can be merabel lezeh u'memayat lezeh. He has no problem if he is marbe to one of the sons and gives it to the other sons. It's rishus biyodeh. If he says he does a b'teres Yerusha, it's not valid. But if he says, I'm giving a b'teres maton, I'm not getting involved right now. But the father has the right and the jurisdiction to prorate and to diversify and to divide his Yerusha according to whichever way he wants. So it comes in to tells you, Av kemoi, that the father has reshus to be mamchil is nachalo to his children, not according to their proportional yachas within the household, but according to his wish, so too the Roishe Amatis, manchilim esaom kol ma sheyirtzu. So they have the right to be manchil the om kol ma sheyirtzu, and this is halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker. You're going to have to come on by spreading around and dividing Eretz Yisrael. You're going to have to make some kind of Hefker Beis Din Hefker in order to make this complete division according to the goyrel of which came in the Ur V'Tumim. The Rashba, the Chuvas Rashba, the Rashba says that how do you know Minayin she Hefker Beis Din Hefker? Hefker Beis Din Hefker will be the Rabbanon de Kedin. You learn it out. You know there's no pasuk in the Torah. The Rashba in Chelik Aleph in Siman Elef Reish Vav, and so is the Ramban. The Chuvas Michoel the Ramban said although the psukim of Hefker Beis Din Hefker is learned only from either Sefer Yehoshua or Sefer Ezra, yet it's the Oraisa de Kedin, not the Rabbanon de Kedin. There is in the Sugyas HaGemora in Gittin, in Daf Lamed Vov, is Agoras on the side from the Maharab Ranchburg. It brings down on the Levush. Levush is Simach Samach Zayin. Since the Pasuk, it says, V'kivan shenilmod me'a Pasuk, v'roisha, I'm quoting, v'roisha ha'ofes l'mati Yisrael, afilu the Oraisa Hefker Beis Din Hefker. The hach kro the eila anachlis b'toyer ksiv. Hefker Beis Din Hefker the Oraisa. This halach of Hefker Beis Din Hefker who helping to din the Oraisa, it's a chiddush. So the Marab Ranchburg brings the Levush, and the Levush says, since you learn out from the pasuk Oisha Matas of Yisrael, so Mimele, that's a pasuk. So Mimele is the Oraisa. If it's the Oraisa, it helps to din the Oraisa. Major of communities will soon see where this halacha is negel l'maisa. Frek the Marab Ranchburg, it's not the Oraisa. It's a pasuk in Sefer Yehoshua. So Pashtus, what you have to say, the Levush doesn't, not that the Levush did not know that this pasuk V'roisha Ovos Lamatos Bnei Yisrael is a pasuk in Sefer Yehoshua, not in the Torah. I mean, since Parashas Nachlas is Ksuva Torah, even though the limud is from the pasuk in Sefer Yehoshua, but the pasuk pertains, the pasuk refers to the Parashas Nachlas from the Torah. So therefore, the Madrege of the Maritzchia says a very long arichas about it in his Sefer, something, how do you know, Divrei Torah, Divrei Kabbalah, what he says, that something that says in Sefer Yehoshua, we're talking about Sefer Yehoshua, Dafka Sefer, I'm sure I'm saying Sefer Yehoshua when I'm not dealing with other Nevi'im, which refers to Dinim, which says in the Torah, that even though the only Yitur in the Pasuk says in Sefer Yehoshua, and not in the Torah, has a din Ke'ilu Nichta B'Torah, Legabe all the halachas of Psukim which are learned from the Torah. There's a Gemara, fascinating Gemara in Maseches Moed Katan. The Gemara in Daf Zayin in Maseches Moed Katan is talking about the dinim of menude, muchram, cherem, nidui. The Gemara says if a person is not metzayas ledine, based on his mafkir is nechos. They put him in the shamta, they put him in the or, they put him in the nidui, they excommunicate him. They don't let anybody have his shaykhs to him. The Gemara goes along a whole blot. How do you know they can do this? How do you know oiru merois? How do you know Anoshim El Tanakel Dosim Vaviram, and then Sisro, and the Milchem Sisro, he says Oiru Merois. The Gemara says, how do you know that Beis Din has the jurisdiction to go ahead to somebody who is not Sayas, the Din Torah, to be Mafkir is Nechosim? I read the Gemara in Moed Katan Daf Zayin. The Gemara Minal Mafkir Nichse Dichsi V'chol Asher Lo Yovei L'Shleishes Hayom Mikatzas Asorim V'Askenim Yecharam Kol Rechushoy V'Uibodl Mekalei. This is the pasuk in Ezra. Whoever is not coming to the meeting, the Ezra, the Skenim are calling, they're gonna go ahead and mafkia is nechosim, makrim is nechosim. Says Rashi, the mafkirina lenichsei lemanda loitzayas lelul rabbanon yecham hu v'kol l'chushoy the hefker beis din mehocho nafkolon b'chol duchte. Rashi says the more brings down the pasuk of Yibodl Mikalei, the Yechem Kol L'Chushay. It says by Ezra, that's the source, that's the Makor, the halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker. The Gemara there, for some reason or another, doesn't bring the pasuk in Yehoshua for Roisha Ovos Lamatos Bnei Yisrael, only the pasuk Ezra. So Pashtus, you have to say, Balabatish. The reason why the Gemara over there doesn't, because the Hefker is, the pasuk in Ezra is talking about Yechram Kol L'Chushay. So Pashtus is not talking about doing anything more than confiscating his rechush. And confiscating his rechush, the likewise instance of confiscation of properties to somebody who doesn't listen is very much similar in the story of Ezra. If you don't come, we be machrim your rechush, we excommunicate you, we disown you from your yechram, we put it into cherem, we confiscate it. And the reason why the Gemara doesn't bring down the pasuk from Yeshua, because over there he's talking about a cherem, and a cherem is very much like one of the two things. You don't come to Beis Din, we can machrim you. Just like Ezra, whoever didn't come to the meeting, the Ezra, the Skanim called, machim kol rechusha. The Rambam, if I look at Rambam Hilchas Sanhedrin, and I read, Yechein yesh lo dayan tamid lahafkir momish yesh lo bailim, ume'abed v'noisen kefi ma sheyire ligdor pirtzois hadas ulechazek habeder oy liknois alom. Guys, the Gavra Alime, as a Knas Beis Din, has the right to go ahead and to be mafkir his moment. It becomes Hefker. והרי הוא אומר בעזרא וכל אשר לא יובל אשתו יסם כעצת הזקן יחרם כל רכוש מכאן שהפקר בייס דין הפקר. The Rambam also doesn't bring down, here the Rambam already is talking about somebody is a Gavra Alime and you want to be mafkir, is not talking about yechram kol rechusha. We're taking the guy's property and we're making it into hefker. The Rambam says subject to like ligder pirtzei sadas or liknes alom. And the Rambam doesn't bring down the pasuk in Sefer Yehoshua. The Rambam brings down only the pasuk in Ezra. Mitzad Hasheni, that's the Rambam. Mitzad Hasheni. If I look in the Sugyas like Moin Baba Basra in Daf Kufa in Aleph, I look at the Rashbam says the Beis Din Alimei Mafke Momenei, the Hefker Beis Din Hefker, Kedenafkel Me'ela Nachlis. The Rashbam brings down only unsere pasuk from Sefer Yehoshua and not the pasuk in Sefer Ezra. And also the Rashba, which I quoted you before, in Jewish Rashba, the Rashba says, the Ave Afkor so the Malke, the Hefker Beis Din Doraisa, Kedi Alfilu Me'ela Nachlis. So the pasuk is only for Yeshua. The first tutzach is the Mekor unsere pasuk in Yeshua from Rosh Hamatos, Rosh Haoves, or the pasuk is why do some people bring this pasuk and some people that brought pasuk. I would like in the time we have to learn up. The Rambam says, I have a different principle. You know, Hillel's Mesakim principle. Midin Teire, all the Choyves Ksofim. They didn't Shmitas Ksofim, but since it was in Aludels B'fnei Leivim, if the guy was Mesakim principle, somebody should Moisash to Reis Ulu Beis Din. So the Ram passing in Hilchas Shmita v'Yor Ein Kois Zvin Pruzbul Elo Chachomim Gdoilim B'Yoyser Kebeis Dino Shel Ravami v'Ravasi Shem Ruim Lafkia Momim B'nei Odom. Aval Shar Botei Dinim Ein. The Ram said that Hefker Beis Din Hefker B'Yesoido is being Mafkia somebody's moment. Because Be'emes, Midin Torah, the moment belongs, it's Shemitah, but no, you mafkia his moment in order for the Baal Chayv to collect it via Mesir Shtoros LeBeis Din. The Rambam says the halacha is only Beis Din Chachomim Gdoili B'Yoser, like the Beis Din of Avami v'Ravasi. Just want to say, L'maiseh, if we walk through, take a shtickle tour in Shas, we walk through, I'd like to go through 10 halachas so we find the din of Hefker Beis Din Hefker in order to just to have a crystal ball to understand what's the Mekor Halacha. Gemara says that Shchiv Mera Shikosov Kol Nechosav Lepleni, or he says the halacha is you don't need a kinyan. According to one of the Omer Shchiv Mera Leitzorich kinyan. Why? Because Divrei Shchiv Mera Keksuvim Nesunim Dami. So the Gemara, why is Divrei Shchiv Mera Keksuvim Nesunim? It's a takana because Hefker Beis Din Hefker. In other words, it belongs. Ki'ilu the guy made it fisa. It's Afkamin. If somebody else chapseis from him, it's later the entire Divrei Shchiv Mera Keksuvim Nesunim. The halacha is because of Hefker Beis Din Hefker. This halacha that somebody is not mitzayas dina, the Gemara, as we said before, vayter Hefker Beis Din Hefker. Somebody is not oiker kilayim. Somebody by Meisres, Mishnah in Meisres, if somebody is not oiker kilayim, so Beis Din is mafkir the soda. Somebody grows kilayim, Beis Din sends him a warning. You're not allowed to be the kilayim bakerim. You're not allowed if he's not listening. Beis Din is mafkir is tvur. Anybody can take it. Shteit Mishnah, the halacha is that this Paris that you take via Hefker Beis Din is the din of a Hefker, and Hefker is potem and so today you can eat it's not tevel. Why? Because it's din the same thing a person is mafkir physically. Hefker is potem and so too when Beis Din is mafkir. Why? Because Esther Beis Din Hefker, it's a knas for somebody who's megadol kilayim. Shteit the halacha is stems halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker. Gemara says in Yevom Stuff Peivom on the basic, Gemara says, Mipnei Makonsul Levim B'Meiser. Gemara says that the Levim, which are all b'mei Ezra, I'm not getting involved. They did come, the Mishnah in Kedushin says, Nasor Yus, and only b'Vavel, Koyanim Levim, Teisa Sekashe. Why did they say they didn't come? Teisa said there were Kaitzes b'nei Nesayim. They didn't want for them to sing for the Vuchanetzar, Eich Nosher Shir Tzin Alot Mas Leicho, Sius Koyanis. What did he do? He said that my Serishin, instead of giving it to the Levim, Apidin Torah is supposed to give it to the Levim, and they gave it over from Levim to Koyanim of the Knas. It's one of the Knossos of Ezra. Again, you're taking something belongs to the din of Mammon HaShevet and belongs to the Levim, and you say no. Levim are not getting only Koyanim, they go also Hefker Beis Din Hefker. Prusbul is Hefker Beis Din Hefker. If somebody gives Dmei Shviz to Amoritz, the halacha is you're allowed to give an Amoritz. The maximum you're allowed to give an Amoritz is Moslem Gimel Sudes. So the Gemara says, what happens if somebody gives Yoisem Imamim Sudes? You're supposed to be Mechalal Amoritz Shebebeise. Or the question is, how you Mechalal? The halacha is Enod Mechalal Dor Sheina Shaloi. He gave it more than Moses Shalosh Sudes. How you Mechalal? So the Gemara Hefker Beis Din Hefker, you can be Mechalal, even though Chilul is like Kinyan, it's like Hefker, it's like Hektish. The halacha is Ish Kiyagish Beisakoy Mabesa B'Shusay Kol B'Shusay. It has to be Shaloi and B'Shusay. Yet a person could be Mechalal Al Moed Sheyesh Lo B'Beisay, even though the actual Paris today is not, or the Nechosim that he gave is not his. Also the halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker. The halacha is by Ribis. The halacha is if you want to be Mafish Yisrael from Ribis, the Mafkia the Ribis from the Yid and they give it to a Goy. In order for the Yisrael not to be over Anisa Ribish, they more in Ezu Neshech, what's the Makor Hefker Beis Din Hefker? And Kiddushay Isha, the Gemara comes along and says, Kama Mekoymis in Shas, Tenach the Kodesh Bekaspo. The Gemara says, why? Because it's Allah Kol Mekadesh, Adaita Merabona Mekadesh, Vafkil Rabona Kiddushim, and the money is Al Hefker Beis Din Hefker. So you can Mafkia Kiddushin Midin Hefker Beis Din Hefker. Oh, the guy is Mekadesh Isha Begezel. So the halacha is that Rabban is mafkei the kiddushin. That's this halacha, the same halacha als Hefker Beis Din Hefker. And by Isur Shabbos, the person is mitzuver and muzer and shvisas kelim b'Shabbos. And the reason why, by the Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Yudches by Gigis and there is because the person is mafkei the Gigis. And Mela is not his kelim. Mela is no Isur shvisas kelim. And also, it's not talking about a person who's really mafkir. State in the Rishonim, Teises don't Ramban of North that it is a person is not mafkir, but the Beis Din is mafkir on behalf of a person in order to be not over the Yisur Shvisas Kelim b'Shabbos. The Gemara in Gittin, very interesting. The Gemara in Gittin is a shaila. The Gemara says like this: Gona vehiglish v'chakach tovach u'mochar. Somebody gam a behemoth and he's makdish it for hekdesh, and then he makes tvicha mechir. So if you wouldn't make hekdesh in between, so it'll be chayav kefil on the gneva and above chamisha on the tvicha mechir. What happened? He's makdish and then he makes tvicha mechir. It says he owes tashlum kefil ve'ena mishalem tashlum above chamisha. Fine. Why? Because lemaise it belongs to the hekdesh. The second he was makdish. The Gemara says that if you hold Yush Koines, so Mimele is makdish it doesn't belong to him. Mimele it's not shaloi. Mimele is not chayav tashlum above chamisha. What happens if he was makdish and he was makriv the be'im b'chutz? Are you onush chorus or not? Shchutechutz. The halacha is shchutechutz. You only chayav something which is royally skabel b'fnim. Anything which is not royally skabel b'fnim, it's not called shchutechutz l'gabechiv chorus. Shtei the Gemara says over there in Gittin Dafnun Hey v'toni alo b'chutz ki ha'gavne onush chorus. So the Gemara, if you say yush gdile koni, so chorus ma'avidete. Why? If it's not his, so it's not his, it's gezel. So mele it's not royally kabel b'fnim. If you hold yush is koni, so it belongs to the ganev, so now it's his, and he's makri v'beim b'chutz, he's chayav shchutechutz. But if you hold yush these loikon, so it belongs to the original bialim, so it's not royally kabel b'fnim. So mele, why do you have a chiyuv chorus? So the Gemara Omar Rav Shizvi Kores Midivreim. Achichu alem Gemach leitzonas v'em Kores Midivreim miike Omar lehurove Gavre Rabbe Obar Mitzvah letuchuchu alem. Don't laugh up from the guy. Don't laugh up from Rav Shizvi. He's a Gavre Rabbe. Why? Kores shal yedei divreim. Borloi. The ukme Rabbonan b'rshusei kehechad al chayv alem. Zokt Rashi. Ukme Rabbonan b'rshusei ganev imikdisha shiyochol lehekdish gomo ושייסחייב קורס עם ישחוטנו בחוץ, כי איך דאוגמה ברשוסה לאין לכפור וקנס. וקנס הוא דכנסו, והפקר בייס דין, הוא הפקר וקודש. The Gemara says, comes along, Ravi Bemes Yiddish Yush Gdilei Kani. Von deswegen, Rabbonu Zeugme Birshusei, Le'in Kapora, V'knas, Al Tzefka Beis Din Hefker, Mimele, Zogt Rav Shizai, it's called not Koros Midivrem, there's such a thing as, of course, the Rabbanon. Rabbanon made, Al Yedei, the Takon of Hefker Beis Din Hefker, Takon of that, the Hekdesh Yischal, Mimele, is Blabs Royal, is Kabufni, Mimele, Yuchayev Koros Midoraisa. The Rambam brings down, the Rambam says, Loshan Rambam, just interesting. כל והקדיש ואחר כך שוחט בחוץ חייב. וממוסי העמידו ברשוסוי לחייב כדי לחייב עליה קורס, משור שהקדיש. והוא ששוחט אחריוש, לפני קיוש לא יקון. The Rambam says a lotion, for the Rambam is a shtickle toy from the Brisker, a very nice shtickle, from the Rambam wird ausgewiesen, העמידו ברשוסוי כדי לחייב בקורס. Not the chiyuv chorus, because they העמידו ברשוסוי. The reason why they're immediate b'shusa kedei l'chayev alei course. In other words, the Hefker Beis Din Hefker is mechadash on the ganev the chiyuv chorus. If not for the fact that it was a din of Hefker Beis Din, you wouldn't be chayev chorus. So it comes out that the halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker is not only the gab monas. You take away $50 for the guy, you machrim him, you excommunicate him, you take it, you machrim, you confiscate his garnish, his nechosim, and you take it away from him. Now here's an afkamine, the klape chiyuv chorus that Beis Din puts a birshusay, and today bleibs chayev chorus. I'm the kazach. He's over isu shchutechutz and he's chayev chorus. So the emes yore darkoi, there is a machlekes rishonim, das Rashi, Tosfos, Ramban, Rabbeinu Yerucham, and Ran, that the halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker is not only a halacha of confiscating the moment from a person, but they can take away from Reuven and give to Shimon. Shita Satur, that the halacha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker is only koyach hafko, but not koyach hakno. But all the Rishonim that things like Rashi and Tosfos and Ramban, that said the Ran, Rabbeinu Yerucham, the whole whole, and not only does a Beis Din have a koyach to be machrim, but they also have a koyach likach mizeh velita lezeh. L'chure, this is the shaila, where is the makor of Hefker Beis Din Hefker? The halacha is that if you learn it out from unsere posuk Eila and Cholis Asher Nichal Ulozar HaKoyen, so in Chlukas Eretz Yisrael, it wasn't stam to be mafkia. No, you took from one shevet. What does it mean? I took from that shevet and I said, because of X, Y, Z, I am giving it from Shevet Yehuda to Nachalos Bnei Don. So Beis Din is not only mafkia, but it's also makle. Everyone believes his nachalo according because of the nachalo that Beis Din did. Right? I think we read it. Meis Nisim Oyer Begoyel Lozar HaKoyen Levi Shuv B'tum V'Kaf V'Goyel L'Smutei Yeshua V'At Shel Ya'ale HaGoyel Lozar HaKoyen B'Ruch HaKoyen Goyel Al Shevet Pleini Oyle She'itl B'Mokum Pleini V'Yeshua Poishet Yoda V'Oyle She'ne'emar Eila Necholes Asher Nichalu Lozar HaKoyen V'Yeshua B'Nun V'Zeh Hoise Yeseiro She'Hoya Goyel Tzoveach B'Shas Al Yos Ani Goyel Al Shevet Pleini Al Lis B'Mokum Pleini U'Minayin She'Goyel L'Moshe Al Pi HaGoyel. So the Alpia Goyrol Nischalko Oretz is that it's taking away from, theoretically, this Shevet and give it away to the other Shevet. If the Mekor, however, is from Sefer Ezra, that the Kol Shel Yovel L'Shem Yecham Kol Rechushay is only a raya to be mafkia a moment. Now you take away, your moment becomes Hefker, but not taking you moment and giving it over al Tzalocha of Hefker Beis Din Hefker. That's really the reason why sometimes the Gemara brings down both limudim, side Sefer Ezra, side Sefer Yeshua, and sometimes only Sefer Ezra. The Sugya Sagmora in Yevamas and in Gitna, the Gemara brought down both psukim, is because the Gemara wants to bring a right to the Gabedin Hefker Beis Din Hefker, side to be mafkir moment, the side to be makre to somebody else. The Gemara had to bring the pasuk in Sefer Yeshua as well. But the Gemara Moed Cotton is talking about machrim kol lechushe lotzayis ledine. He just excommunicated. He just put a knas on his nechosim. Somebody is only on afkoras moment and not on being makna the moment to someone else. So therefore, the Gemara only brings down the pasuk of all those Rishonim that they learn in pasuk Ezra. Every time they want to talk about be mafkir the moment, the Mekor is in Sefer Ezra. Anytime you want to talk about Hakno, the Mekor is from Sefer Yehoshua.